Looks like it's time for another best era versus worst era. This time it's BTS. Now I'ma be honest. They've had some dodgy eras over the years, but they've also had too many good eras, so this was super hard. First I'll start with my bias. Jungkook. His best era is Love Yourself answer. The reason I chose this is because it was the era where he really caught my attention. He'd always been one of the members I found the most attractive, but all of a sudden Idol appeared and he just came for blood. The suit, oof. The way he was fucking that camera, oof. His red hair, oof. The way he danced that choreo was delicious. I was fed so well. We were also given the full version of Euphoria and I would be nothing without that high note. It gives me everything I need in life. I get good grades. That's all because of that high note. I have clear skin. High note. It's just that bitch. So yes, answer belongs to Jungkook. His worst era is School Love Affair. Overall, it's not my fave for anyone, to be honest, just more because I didn't really like the schoolboy outfits. I wasn't a fan of the song that much. It's my least favorite of all their title tracks. For Jungkook, he always has the strong vocals every comeback, so ultimately I put it down to looks, and I thought this was Jungkook's weakest era visually. But we all know he a king most of the time anyways. He just had a baby face in this era lmao. Now on to Yoongi. His best era is Wings. This was the era that always stands out the most to me for Yoongi. This was the first video where I was like, yes, this is the king over here. As we know, it was the first of their music videos I watched, and Yoongi was the first person who really caught my attention and I thought was stunning. I love black hair's Yoongi so much, it'll always be my favorite hair color for him, and goddamn the outfits they put him in made him look like royalty. We been knew Wings is that bitch anyway, but Yoongi took her ass, spanked it, and told her to call him daddy. His worst era is Dark and Wild. Whoever gave him that dead trim needs to be fired right now. Y'all seeing that fringe? Of course his rapping is always powerful and he can never do badly on the songs, but we been knew that Dark and Wild was exactly what the name implies. They did my boy dirty and he didn't deserve that. I'm sorry baby, I'm sorry. Now for Namjoon. His best era is Love Yourself Tear. All Black Bangtan was beautiful, but Namjoon killed it. We all know that his verses in Fake Love are the most iconic of all, bitch. Why you sad? I don't know Nan Mola. You see Abwa Sarang Himal Hebwa Nerul Bwa Najachado Birin Na. Niajacha Hihal Sui Ups Noon Na. Let's just say Namjoon came for my ass this era. I loved every look he served. My guy was on fire. His worst era was the most beautiful moment in life, Young Forever. Y'all must already know why. This might just be Namjoon's worst trim. And my boy's had some awful trims in his time. I mean, we've all seen the Bulletproof music video. But good lord. This was terrible lmao. He looked a damn mess. The fringe was even worse than Yoongi's fringe. I'm sorry June. You deserve better, and now you've got the good trims. Now for Taehyung. His best era was Love Yourself Her. Tae was my original alt. I have since betrayed him, oops, but this era was the one that pretty much made me the pop stan I am today lmao. All I have to say about him was, my gosh, the hair. The hair. It was stunning. He radiated the biggest dick energy. The silk red shirt was my favorite outfit he's ever worn. It complemented his hair and really drew attention to his visuals. Forever iconic. His worst era is Tear. I know. I've already said this, but I'll say it again. I can't stand mullets. This was the era where I strayed away from Taehyung fully. I still loved him of course, but he no longer held alt status. I already was standing other groups at this point, and BTS no longer held my attention in the same way they did at the beginning. It makes me sad still, but I just hated his mullet that much. It was a complete turn off for me in every way. And now my guy Jin. His best era is the most beautiful moment in life, Young Forever. Blonde Jin. The most iconic, stunning, powerful thing to ever happen in Bangtan history. Y'all already know the bit in Fire Came to Kill and she succeeded. I don't even need to say what, but I know you know. I don't even care about anything else he did this era. That look alone was enough for her to be number one. That's how powerful this era was for him. His worst era was, as I'm sure many would agree, Too Cool for School. His voice has grown into something so beautiful, but this era, she was not there yet lmao. We've all listened to Bulletproof Part 2. We all know that poor Jinny boy struggled a lot compared to the others. Of course she's still a bop though, we stan. I feel like this era Jin faded more into the background too, so you know. It just wasn't it, let's be honest. And now it's Jimin's turn. His best era is Map of the Soul Persona. Absolutely stunning. Oof. He owned the center this era. He opened Boy with Love with such power. His hair was on point. He was looking real ethereal coming out busting them moves with Jungkook. All the boys looked real happy this era which made it so enjoyable and lovely. Jimin was especially upbeat and entertaining. He also busted a lung in Microcosmos so you know, we have no choice but to stan. His worst era is also too cool for school. Simply because I don't think he shined as much as he did in the other eras. There really isn't a bad era for Jimin. I guess this was more around the time he was a little ignorant and said some dodgy stuff but now he seems much more mature so he's clearly grown from this time. Finally it's J-Hope. His best era is also Tear. I adored this look for Hoseok. The leather and the black outfits and the harnesses were a fat yes. His rapping in this era was some of my faves especially in outro Tear. I loved his moments in Fake Love too. His purple highlights were so cute. His lil storyline was really uwu. My poor baby and his Snickers Lmao. His worst era is Oh Are You Late Too. Another dead trim are we really surprised? Sorry Hoseok sweetie. I mean this era as a whole wasn't the best visually I must be honest Lmao. But poor Hoseok took the brunt of it on this one. Now that I've done all the members I'll rate all the eras as a whole from worst to best. In 13th place is School Love Affair. I just didn't like this era that much. Not a fan of the concept as a whole. Didn't like the outfits and in my opinion no looks were served here. Sorry boys. In 12th is Oh Are You Late Too. I love No but I didn't like the outfits and the whole gangster thing they went for because it didn't match the concept which was actually quite good. In 11th is Too Cool for School. They've grown a lot in literally every way since debut but I still prefer it to the other two eras. I loved rapper Jungkook a lot and I need him to make a comeback. In 10th is Dark and Wild. I mean we all know Jin was serving this era and it nearly got too spot for him but the vocals brought it down a tad but we also had the other looks which were not the best. I also didn't like the concept that much like what really was it. In 9th is The Most Beautiful Moment in Life too. I know a lot of people love this era but I personally don't like it as much. The songs on the album were good but there wasn't as many memorable songs in my opinion. In 8th is Tear. I really struggled with this era because looking back on it she was great but at the time I wasn't the biggest fan. I got a little bored of it. I cared more about the other groups I stand so I didn't enjoy it that much. In 7th is The Most Beautiful Moment in Life Young Forever. Some lit B-sides. Some nice looks but also some terrible looks. This era was a little forgettable to me compared to the other eras you get me. In 6th is You Never Walk Alone. Some of my fave B-sides from them but still not quite as memorable of an era compared to the others. But we stan of course. In 5th is Most Beautiful Moment in Life Part 1. This all stemmed mostly from Dope to be honest. Just because she was so iconic. The outfits. The hair the power. Oof. We stan Policeman Jungkook. In 4th is Persona. I know a lot of people weren't her biggest fan but I adored this album. I knew I had to but it the second it dropped. She was stunning. Boy with Love was so cute and makes me so happy. The B-sides were all bops and I loved each and every one. I also love the fluffy cute concept. In 3rd is Wings. Blood, Sweat and Tears. Iconic. The looks and the concept. Iconic. The B-sides. Grammy worthy. I loved that each member had a solo. Begin Awaken Stigma changed me deep in my soul. They were actual royalty. And Jin kissed a statue so we must stan. In 2nd is Her. Simply because she means the world to me. She was the first album I ever owned. She was the era that got me into pop. It reminds me of really happy times too. I just have a very special place in my heart for her. In 1st is Answer. I already know nobody else will agree Lmao but I don't really care. The album looked beautiful. The songs were beautiful. The men looked beautiful. I couldn't have asked for any more. She brought BTS back up for me. Idol was one of my most played songs last year. Probably ever actually Lmao. That's the end of this video lol, hope you enjoyed. I actually am gaining subscribers now which is fun so you know this goes out to y'all which is currently 26 people although one of them is my other channel and my friend has 2 channels too so you know all 24 people who are subscribed hi there hope you enjoyed haha.
You the best in my life.